Expert is brought to you by Auger Hollingsworth Accident and Injury Lawyers.
It is time now for Ask the Expert. You can send your questions in for Auger Hollingsworth. We've got Brenda Hollingsworth standing by here. You can send a question in to us. Email us, ottawa.morning@ctv.ca. Give us a call as well, 613-789-6559, extension 2803. It is now time to talk to Brenda Hollingsworth, and we want to remind you that Ask the Expert is for information purposes only, and today we're going to go through some scenarios Brenda has encountered in her work and walking through what you can do if you find yourselves in these situations. So once again, you can give us a call, 789. Let's go back to that phone number so I can read it again there. 613-789-6559, extension 2803. We were just talking a moment ago here, and Brenda was on a call. She had a meeting earlier on. I know your work from sun up to sundown. Yeah. It really doesn't start. So you obviously can give us these scenarios rich with information, and then we can break them apart.
Yeah,
okay?
For sure.
All right,
yes.
Let's get to scenario number one, Brenda. Okay, here we go. My doctor put me off work due to some ongoing medical problems. I'm in treatment, but there's a long way to see the surgeon. So my long-term disability company has denied my claim and won't pay my benefits. All they're telling me is that the medical evidence I have provided does not support my need to be off work. Whew, what should I do? Brenda?
Yeah, so this is extremely common. Your family doctor or your specialist says you can't work. And the insurance company says, oh, we think you can. And doctors aren't equipped to fight this battle for you, right? They fill out the form to the best of their ability, and they expect the insurance company to follow their advice because they are the experts. And the insurance company has its own view of things, denies your claim. And for a lot of people, they have no money coming in if these claims are denied. And so the number one thing that we can do is help you build the evidence that you need to satisfy the insurance company. So we know the kinds of things that the insurance company is looking for. Like one of the things doctors do is write very quickly and very briefly,
yes.
right? And so they might not use the words completely disabled, and maybe that's what your policy requires. So we can go back, easy thing to do, we can look at your policy, because they're all different. We can look at your policy, we can look at what your doctor wrote, and we can say, hey doc, we need a little bit more on this, and can you answer these questions in detail? And sometimes that's all it takes. Sometimes a refreshed letter from the doctor, and the insurance company comes around. It's not always how it is, but that's sometimes how it is.
Okay, I mean, getting that legal information, that expertise on knowing what the problem may be is really invaluable, because you can take that letter that the doctor sent in and go, why is it not accepted? But you will dissect that and then go back and follow up with the doctor.
Exactly.
Is that particularly difficult to do for an individual who's just, they're on disability, they're not getting any money, and then to follow up with the doctor? It's hard enough to get through on the line just to make an appointment.
And a lot of times the doctors don't they don't realize that they're going to be scrutinized. They really think their word should carry the day. Mm-hmm. And I look at a non-lawyer looks at the doctor's letter and says, okay, well, she answered the questions. And so it does often take more than that.
The Expert is brought to you by Auger Hollingsworth Accident and Injury Lawyers.
Okay, we are continuing Ask the Expert with Brenda Hollingsworth from Auger Hollingsworth. If you want to reach out to Auger Hollingsworth, you've got a legal question, there's their contact information, 613-233-4529. We've got a viewer question for you, Brenda.
Yeah,
okay?
I love that.
All right. The viewer asks, when renewing my car insurance, I was given a number of additional options to add or enhance coverage. Is there any supplemental or voluntary coverage she would recommend carrying in case the worst happens?
Yeah, this is a fantastic question. Optional benefits are really important to consider when you're renewing your car insurance. So your accident benefits are your no-fault benefits. This is where you get your medical rehabilitation, your attendant care, income replacement benefits, and regardless of who caused the accident, and everybody in your household gets benefits based on what you purchase. So it's really important to upgrade if you can. One of the main areas that I would upgrade is the medical rehabilitation. If the worst happens, which is what the question was.
Yes, worst case scenario.
Like let's say serious spinal cord injury, the money you get will not be enough. And even if you have a successful lawsuit because the other person was at fault, the money you get will not be enough. So you want to make sure that you have the very maximum benefits that you can afford. And the good news is optional benefits are actually not that expensive. If you ask your broker for a quote for the optional benefits, you might find that you get a very significant increase in coverage for not that much more. And so if you can afford it, you certainly could, or you certainly should. And if I can just add one thing, next summer, the government has announced that next summer, many of the accident benefits are going to become optional. Like right now, we have a lot of mandatory coverages, but the government is going to stop them from being mandatory and is going to introduce them as optional. When the time comes for you to renew, say yes to the optional benefits. It's really important to have that coverage.
Okay.
Because, you know, really bad things happen.
Yeah, and like you said, optional benefits and the costs. The extra cost is not that much, you're
Not
saying,
relative to if you need it. And so many people will say to me, I wish I had the optional coverage.
The average coverage is just not enough if the worst case scenario happens,
Right,
right?
or even a serious case.
Yeah.
You don't have to be sort of with quadriplegia, even someone who can't work.
Yeah.
You need that coverage if you can afford it.
Brenda, you wanted to go back to the LTD case, scenario number one. Can you just quickly recap?
So we were talking about what if your long-term disability insurance is denied, and we talked about sort of getting the doctor to do a better letter. Sometimes that doesn't work, right? And we do sue on long-term disability cases all the time. Generally speaking, these are not the long drawn-out lawsuits you see for things like car accidents or slip and falls. Generally speaking, the insurance company comes to the table and generally speaking, we're able to make a decent deal in these cases. There is the odd case that goes to court, but most of the time, even though there's a lawsuit, there's a high likelihood of settlement. And so it's worth it. You know, people say, well, is it worth even trying? Usually it is.
What are we talking about here in terms of resolution timeline? How long does that take?
Well, I mean, in terms of, we have a client, for example, whose claim was denied last summer. We did the appeal with the doctor letter, didn't work, and she's got a mediation soon. And so 11 months, I mean, that's a long time to be without income, no question about it. But some lawsuits are 4 or 5 years. That's not what we're talking about for this.
Okay, that gives us an idea.
Exactly,
anyhow. Brenda Hollingsworth of Auger Hollingsworth, just giving us a window, a look into some of the more complicated cases and what you need to do. We really appreciate you coming by.
Always happy to help.
Love that viewer question, like you were saying, right?
Yeah,
Get that as much coverage as possible, because usually, worst case scenario, it's usually not enough. But the extra coverage does not necessarily cost that much.
Exactly.
All right. Thank you so much once again, Brenda Hollingsworth of Auger Hollingsworth. Once again, there's her information on the screen. You can give them an email, info@ahinjurylaw.com, and their number 613-233-4529.